Begin this morning, though, with the latest in the investigation into Tyre Nichols' death.
That's right. Much of the country is in grief, pain, and feeling anger over the release of that graphic video footage depicting the brutal police assault of Nichols earlier this month. Protesters across the country gathered peacefully over the weekend, calling for justice and accountability. On Saturday, the Memphis Police Department responded by disbanding the Scorpion Tactical Unit, the unit which the 5 former Memphis police officers belonged to. They've all been charged with second-degree murder in Nichols' death, and lawyers representing 2 of the officers, Desmond Mills Jr. and Emmett Martin III, say they intend to plead not guilty. For more on all of these developments, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber in Memphis. Ellison, so facing public pressure, the Memphis Police Department announced that they're disbanding that Scorpion unit. And tactical units are not unusual for police departments. But what was their role and purpose, and how are people responding to this news?
Yeah, so the decision to permanently deactivate this unit was made this weekend. Memphis Police Department, they say that the chief of police here, C.J. Davis, met with officers in this unit who were not involved in this incident, and that they decided that the best path forward for the police department, for the community, would be to permanently deactivate this unit. It had been deactivated since this incident involving Tyre Nichols occurred on the 7th, but now it is permanently disbanded. Moving forward, the department has also said they plan to look into other specialized units. This particular unit, it was called the Scorpion Unit. It was formed less than 2 years ago. That name, Scorpion, it stood for Street Crimes Operations to Restore Peace in our neighborhoods. When it was formed, the police department said this unit would primarily focus on combating car thefts and gang violence in hotspot areas where they said they were receiving a high volume of 911 reports. Critics have said that this unit acted with impunity, that they were able to go into communities kind of heavy-handed. They were able to stop people for small infractions and use that as a pretext to then pull them over, talk to them, try to look for drugs or more serious offenses without having any indication initially that maybe a more serious offense was occurring. The disbanding of this unit, this is something that the Tyre Nichols family was calling for. This is something that his attorneys were calling for, as well as community activists. One of the attorneys representing Tyre Nichols' family, Ben Crump, he said that he had heard reports from other people that they say they were targeted, that they were harassed by this particular unit. The DA for this county has said he's not aware of particular allegations, but he said this weekend in an interview on MSNBC that disbanding, deactivating this unit was the right move. Listen.
I am not aware of any prior investigation of members of the Scorpion unit. That's not to say it didn't happen, but I'm not aware of it. But I do know that now I have heard that a number of citizens making complaints about the Scorpion unit. I know that units of that kind sometimes can, both in Memphis and around the country, can sometimes, I don't know, breed a culture of over-aggressiveness. And I think it's probably a healthy thing that the unit's been disbanded.
We've seen specialized units like this disbanded in other cities over the years. Atlanta, where I'm from, there was this very controversial unit that started in the 80s called the Red Dogs. They disbanded that in 2011. The police chief here, she actually was with the Atlanta Police Department and at one point oversaw that unit during her 3 decades within that police department. What critics say, these specialized units like the Red Dogs in Atlanta, like the Scorpion unit here, they say that they are going into communities more often than not black and brown communities, and that the only thing that really makes them specialized is not extensive training, is not extensive experience, but is that they have permission, a longer leash, if you will, to go into these communities and stop people with little cause in order to try and find larger crimes. And that's something that other officers don't always have. Guys.
I want to now also bring in Cedric Alexander, Minneapolis Community Safety Commissioner. Thank you for joining us. So, Cedric, I want to expand on this and kind of talk about these units generally. And actually, first, I want to read some of what Ben Crump, that's the attorney representing Nichols' family, said. He's calling for an end to, quote, saturation unit policing, things like the Scorpion unit that Ellison just discussed. He also said, quote, these units can morph into wolf pack misconduct that takes away a person's liberty or freedom freedom to move akin to a kidnapping. Officers tend to focus on Black and brown members of the community. I think it's important to note here that these officers, in addition to those murder charges, were also charged with kidnapping. Do you agree with this assessment? And is disbanding these tactical units part of the solution? Could it make a real impact?
Well, it certainly can make an impact, but I think the most important thing to keep in mind here, and I think what was certainly absent in this particular case, regardless of what they may call themselves or what they may not call themselves, anytime you have a special operations team that is operating or working inside any community to go after sometimes the more violent criminals, I think it's important to note you got to have well-trained officers. They have to be well-trained, they have to be disciplined, and the most important thing is that they have to have good supervision. And supervisors who are in contact with their behaviors, with their attitudes, the way in which they are exercising the law and how they're engaging the public. I think in the future we're going to get away from these types of strong names such as Scorpion and other names that local units may make up, and really move more towards the type of units that are going to be well trained, but at the same time are going to have to be far more sensitive to the communities in which they serve. Because you just cannot go into any community, even in a community that may be riveted with crime, and assume that everybody in that community is a criminal, because that is not true. So I think over time those units will be disbanded, but whatever personnel that are put into those communities, they're going to have to be far more sensitive to the communities that they serve. They're going to have to build relationships with those communities. Those communities are going to have to be part of their crime-fighting efforts, and you're not just going to be able to go in there and bulldoze your way through and violate people's constitutional rights and feel that that's going to be okay. That is not going to continue to happen.
Cedric, Alexander, and Ellison Barber, thank you so much for starting us out this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now to California. A mass shooting in an upscale Los Angeles neighborhood over the weekend left 3 people dead and 4 wounded. Police are still searching for a suspect in this latest gun-related tragedy. The state still reeling from half a dozen other mass shootings just this month. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park reports.
Residents in Los Angeles on high alert after a shooting in an upscale neighborhood just north of Beverly Hills killed 3 out-of-state women and wounded 4 others. Police have not made any arrests and released no new updates, but law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation are looking into the possibility this was targeted.
Investigators are also going door to door and looking for additional surveillance video or any evidence that could help us.
Most of the victims were found outside the short-term rental property, valued at roughly $3 million, according to Zillow. Nearby, other rentals are going for $2,000 to $4,000 a night.
This is like a really special place for us. I mean, yeah, I could have been on that corner last night.
This latest mass shooting marks the 7th for California this month. In just this state alone, last week, at least 23 people were killed by gun violence in San Diego, Oakland, Half Moon Bay, and Monterey Park, where gunmen opened fire inside a dance hall hosting a Lunar New Year celebration. The shooting heightening security. Today in New York City, a parade moved through Brooklyn as officers kept close watch.
Were you on edge? A little bit. You know, every time we have any kind of gatherings, we're always, you know, just to be extra safe.
Back out west, one community still reeling from tragedy took steps toward healing while also honoring a hero. Brandon Say managed to disarm the Monterey Park gunman as he entered a second dance hall in Alhambra.
Thank you for saving countless lives.
A moment of gratitude after a week gripped by heartache. Kathy Park, NBC News.
Turning now to the campaign trail. We are just about 1 year out from both the Iowa and New Hampshire primaries, and the stakes pretty high right now.
Yeah, it might feel early to talk about, but it's happening. All right, this comes in the wake of classified document scandals on both sides of the aisle. Well, according to new polling from NBC News, The American public is concerned about both President Biden and former President Trump's roles with those documents.
That's right. Nearly 70% of people polled said they are concerned about the issue, while roughly 20% say they are not. This weekend, former President Trump kicked off a GOP campaign effort in both New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Shaq Brewster joins us now from New Hampshire. Von Hilliard joins us from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Thank you both for being up early and with us this morning. Shaq, I'll start with you. So I know you spoke to some voters at a restaurant in New Hampshire over the weekend. Classic campaign trail stuff. Here we go. We're talking to diners. Let's hear what one of them had to say first, and we'll talk on the other side.
Generally speaking, I don't feel represented by the government in any meaningful capacity, and the majority of Americans are sort of kept on an ideological treadmill where we just sort of tire ourselves out. I don't know. I don't think that this country does a very good job of representing anybody.
Shaq, tell us what other New Hampshire voters said. Did they echo that sentiment in there? I mean, he says that we tire ourselves out. Am I sensing some campaign trail fatigue already?
Well, guys, I'll tell you, I did get some weird faces from folks when I was asking about 2024, just months after the very contentious 2022 midterms. But yes, there is some fatigue out there. And, you know, one thing that I did notice from voters is that on one side of the aisle, when you talk to Republican voters who want to see more change, who don't like the direction that this country is going in, they are a little bit more excited about the prospect of the primary starting in just about 1 year. They are looking forward to that presidential election process. When you talk to some Democrats, yes, they're looking at what they consider a better than expected midterm election period. But one thing to note is that there are plenty of Democrats who told me that they are looking for a fresh face, not really wanting or excited about the idea of President Biden looking for re-election.
And Vaughn, let's bring you in because I know you spoke with Republican voters at Trump's South Carolina campaign stop over the weekend. Let's hear what one of those voters had to say.
Is there a chance you'd vote for a Republican that is not Trump next year?
There is a chance. It's a short list, though.
Short list?
It's a short list.
Who's on the list?
Maybe a DeSantis. A strong conservative, constitutional candidate who is putting America first.
Vaughn, that voter, not the only person you spoke to who mentioned Ron DeSantis over the weekend. His name has been garnering a lot of headlines lately. So how popular might a Trump-DeSantis ticket be with Republicans?
Right, fatigue. What are we talking about? Lisa McKim isn't fatigued. She's all into this. And for the Republicans, they have a potential big matchup that they haven't had since dating back to 2015 on the presidential side here. You know, Ron DeSantis is very much of a factor here. They are about to begin their legislative session in Florida, so we shouldn't expect him to announce for at least a couple months there. But this is an individual who was at that Donald Trump rally in South Carolina that we were attending on Saturday, and though she was there to see Trump there, she said that the window is open. I talked to a few others who said that they are also keeping their minds open, but this is a situation where you could be looking at a crowded field that even includes the likes of South Carolina's former governor Nikki Haley, former Vice President Mike Pence, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson. It could be a crowded field, and Donald Trump could be eager for a crowded field because you'd be in a situation where there's the Trump loyalists, and then there's a fracturing of others in the party, and that's exactly how you got a first term out of Donald Trump, guys.
Shaq, let's turn to some more of that NBC News poll that we've got some new numbers. It seems like a lot of people are not too happy with the president's interactions with Congress right now. Walk us through that.
Yeah, right now we have a divided Congress, a divided federal government. So President Biden is a Democrat. Republicans are now controlling the House in Congress. So there's not much optimism. And you see that in the polling and also when we talk with people about stuff getting done in Washington, D.C. Look at this one result from the poll. And this is forward looking. When folks are asked about President Biden's interactions with Congress, you have about 45% of Americans saying that he will be too inflexible when dealing with Congress. When they ask the opposite of that, how Republicans are going to deal with President Biden and interact with him, you have the inverse of that number. 54% say that Republicans will be too inflexible when dealing with President Biden. I want you to listen to how some voters put that sentiment to me.
I think he will be flexible because he's been in the government for like 50 years, so he kind of knows how it works. But the people who just came in, they're not going to be as flexible, so he may have to like give up more than he wants.
Well, no, I don't think they're going to work with Biden. No, I don't. How can you work with him? He's not willing to. Well, his way, but it's not good for America.
The problem here is we are facing some hugely consequential issues, so some flexibility, some compromise would be required for anything to get done.
Never a dull moment on the campaign trail. Shaq in New Hampshire and Vaughn in South Carolina. Thank you both so much.
Thank you both. Good to see you. Now, a chilling message from the man accused of violently attacking Paul Pelosi. The suspect made a call from jail, reaching out to a California TV station to talk about the night of the crime. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin has details and a warning. Some of this video here is disturbing.
In a stunning twist,
drop the hammer. Nope.
David DePape, the man in this newly released body cam video showing the violent October attack on Paul Pelosi, the former speaker's husband, is speaking out for the first time publicly since his arrest.
Hi, how you doing?
The call happened just hours after the release of the video. NBC News has not been able to independently verify the audio.
Now that you all have seen the body cam footage, I have an important message for everyone in America. You're welcome.
According to KTVU, DePape called their reporter who had reached out to him months ago from the San Francisco County Jail.
What is going on right now?
At one point, the alleged attacker apologizing for not inflicting more pain. Investigators have previously said DePape had other high-profile targets. In a police interview released on Friday, DePape told investigators he wanted to take the former speaker hostage and talk to her.
If she told the truth, I'd let her go scot-free. If she lied, that was going to break me down.
Since Nancy Pelosi wasn't home, DePape shared why he struck Paul instead.
You stop me from going after evil, you will take the punishment instead.
DePape has pleaded not guilty to attempted murder and other charges.
There's no question that DePape's attorney is just reeling from this phone call. But candidly, it happens more often than you think that the client sinks their own case with a phone call from jail.
On Friday, Congresswoman Pelosi said she will not watch the video of the attack.
I won't be making any more statements about this case as it proceeds, except to again thank people and inform them of Paul's progress.
DePape's public defender did not return our request for comment, but has previously said he believes his client cannot get a fair trial with the release of the body cam video.
All right, Dana Griffin, thank you so much. And now it's time for your morning news now weather, and we finally saw some snow.
All right, let us know, let us know, let us know.
Angie, last minute, we're ready for some snow.
So let's get the forecast, Angie.
You guys, we're going to have to wait a little longer to see some snow in New York City. There is no snow in sight, but we've got some cold air. How about that? 15 million people are under these wind chill alerts because it is downright frigid in many places across the country. Those current temperatures, just a casual 21 below in Fargo right now, but check out that wind chill. 41 degrees below zero, 13 degrees below zero in Scott City, Denver sitting at 16 degrees below zero for what it feels like there. So you get the picture. There's Arctic air in place. It has settled in for much of the high plains and stretching into parts of the central plains, and it'll continue to sink a little farther south. It's below normal for places like Dallas, who will reach 32 degrees for the high today, just 14 degrees for places like Chicago this afternoon. Not a whole lot of warm air in sight stretching into the Midwest even for tomorrow either. 32 degrees for Cincinnati. Memphis will come in at 35 degrees, and still into those single digits for folks in Fargo. Casper coming in at just 19 degrees. So you get the picture. It's cold through the next couple of days. How about the Northeast? Still fairly tolerable, at least for the next couple of days, but check out Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Temperatures end up into the low 40s in Washington, D.C. and in New York, so fairly nice. Now, as far as the rain, the snow, and winter systems, we've got some rain working through parts of the Southeast, a few snow showers near the Midwest and around the Great Lakes, and then we have a system that's kind of just hanging out out a stationary front that's leaving us with millions dealing with winter weather over the next couple of days. We still have 27 million people from basically Texas to Kentucky. We're going to see multiple rounds of rain, snow, and freezing rain specifically working through. Now, this is going to be problematic for travel, not just today, because if you watch how this progresses, we'll again have those multiple rounds. So you see some rain, you see some snow, and ladies will have anywhere from a half an inch to maybe a quarter of an inch of ice accumulation. So it's really problematic when it comes to travel.
But ice, not snow, is what I'm hearing.
Ice, there's a mix of some snow in there. There's definitely some ice for Texas and up into Kentucky. No snow here, though.
Yeah, what the heck?
The streak continues. We broke the record for latest for snowfall, and we'll see.
Holding our breath. Andy Lassman, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.